Welcome back to JBSports. I'm your host, John the Bird, and today we are going to get into some Commanders news. Pretty much, I'm going to talk a lot about one certain player that I've had some troubling words about recently. But first, I want to say congratulations to the U.S. men's team for getting the gold medal in basketball. Steph Curry went absolutely crazy. That was one of the craziest things I've seen in an Olympic game, especially from like a basketball player. Steph Curry just went completely bonkers. So, but like I said, we're really going to be talking about the Commanders a lot today. So first, Jayden Daniels, he did pretty good in his preseason game against the Jets. He only did one drive, but he had a really good throw. The first though, he kind of threw it over, I think Austin Eckler's head. It was a little like shaky for a second, but he got it together real quick. He started racking up the yards, and he scored his first touchdown. Little run into the end zone, which he used like 30% of his speed, like maybe 20. It was crazy. So we're gonna go into a quick article I found. Commanders coach comments hint at trouble for former first round pick. That former first round pick being Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson, he had a very good first year. He had a very good first few games, as a matter of fact, especially against the Jags. But he had a very rough year last year. He didn't amount to what he should be. The first two seasons, he hasn't amounted to what he should be. So far, he's recorded 84 receptions, 1,041 receiving yards, and 11 touchdowns across 29 games. So you're really thinking 1,041 receiving yards in 2 years is what Terry McLaurin does in basically a year. So you can really see the difference in a good rookie wide receiver and one that's struggling. Jahan Dotson, first year, you know he had like 600 yards. It's okay, something like that. Like it's a rookie. You can kind of deal with it. He can work his way up. But last year, he just did absolutely terrible. You had multiple drops in games, multiple drops wide open. You had he did have some good games. Like there was a game against the Eagles. I think it was the first game of the year where he got us the game tying touchdown to send it to overtime. Like he had his moments, but a lot of times he just wasn't playing well. I mean, multiple drops cost us. He wasn't getting yards. The Commanders were really spreading the ball around from Terry McLaurin last year. Like Sam Howell was really passing more to other people than Terry McLaurin had. But you know, when you have that happening, you want your other receivers to get more. And Jahan Dotson just did not get it done. So you've heard of he's struggling a little bit in training camp, and it seems like the number two spot is kind of still there for the taking. So if he keeps kind of not performing and keeping himself up there, you could see maybe like Luke McCaffrey taking the second spot or De'Ami Brown taking the second spot. Because I think Luke McCaffrey, I don't think De'Ami Brown would take the second spot. Luke McCaffrey has been being done very well in training camps from what I've seen, so I think he's definitely third spot. But if you have Jahan Dotson not playing well, you might see Luke McCaffrey maybe go up a spot, but you never know. Emmanuel Forbes. So I think as all Washington fans can agree with, Emmanuel Forbes had a very rough time last year and in the Jets training camp. So like when I first last year's draft, Emmanuel Forbes gets picked by Washington first round. You were looking at the draft order, and I'll say exactly from what my perspective was. So I'm watching this, right? And this whole time, if we're going cornerback, I wanted Christian Gonzalez the whole entire time. I was scared each team might pick him. I knew there were some teams who didn't need it, so I'm like, okay, this is safe. Maybe this team isn't safe. And I'm dying through this whole thing. And then we finally get to our pick. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, all right, Ron Rivera, this is a no-brainer that Christian Gonzalez should be your pick. And Christian Gonzalez, if you know football and you know draft, was not our pick. And I was actually very upset because Christian Gonzalez did pretty good for the time he did play last year, and I think he played better than Emmanuel Forbes. Emmanuel Forbes got, I believe, one interception last year off Russell Wilson, and he literally fumbled it when he started to run. So Forbes is just not cutting it at all. He's had trouble in practices, like in the Jets practice, there was a clip of him guarding Garrett Wilson and just getting completely toasted and just moss basically. Like he's not able to cover number one receivers like that. We can go back in the last year, you had a game like Emmanuel Forbes versus Brown last year against the Eagles. Emmanuel Forbes got toasted both games. I've said this before. The first game, Emmanuel Forbes gave up like the first game, Emmanuel Forbes gave up like 200 yards and I think like two touchdowns, something like that, maybe one touchdown, and he got completely like destroyed, toasted. It sucked. You then wait till the next game because he got benched. Emmanuel Forbes got benched last year. There's no hiding it. He got benched. And then you go to the game where he comes back and Ron Rivera, this is half Ron Rivera's fault also. He brought him back the next game against the Eagles, and he puts him up against Brown again, and it's same thing as last time. Brown toasted him, and you can say, "Oh, he has a good play." So, and yeah, he had like a few like coverages that were good. He like batted down some passes, but it's not cutting it. And when you had him against the Jets in the preseason game, he did okay. There was one play where he got a PBU, and Coach Quinn said later that he really wished that instead of he's happy he got the PBU, but he really wished instead it was an interception. So you kind of have some of the coaches kind of talking out how he could be doing better, and I guess you wouldn't say he's doing terrible, but he's not doing great and he's not doing up to the expectation you had from originally. He was supposed to be a ball hawk kind of corner and he can't play physically. We've seen it before. He got destroyed by anyone who's physical. So you just get very concerned about what's going to happen this year. You got a lot of physical wide receivers, some new ones coming in the draft. So he's like Emmanuel Forbes is athletic, but that's really what I've seen so far. His IQ looked like it's coming good out of college, but he hasn't really gained too much weight. He doesn't look like he's gotten too much stronger. I mean, a little bit. It's good for him, but like he still looks like a stick. He still just looks like he'll be dominated at the number one spot level. So you really get scared to put him in at all because you have people like Benjamin St. Juste who can be that number one cornerback in my opinion over him. He got his okay. So Benjamin St. Juste did get his first interception last year, which that's kind of worries it a little bit, but he's done very good. Juice we put on Justin Jefferson, he hasn't done terrible. I remember last year against the Vikings, he got an interception that they called a flag on somewhere down there. In my opinion, I mean, it could just be bias, but a lot of people thought it wasn't even people not on our team. But he does good at defending against higher tier players. He can be more physical, and he's pretty athletic. So he's one of those players where you're okay putting him on other people that are stronger. That type of player. You have Mike Sandshrill who just got drafted, but seems to already be getting some good reps in stuff like that. So he's going to be probably playing. And at this point, you could see Mike Davis play better than Forbes. Even you can have someone else fill in that spot for Forbes because Forbes is just not playing how he should. You can maybe move Quan if he works better there. You can move some of these new people. There's some like Noah. Ooh, I can never say this guy's name. Noah Igbinogun. I think that's how I say his name. Maybe kind of play him a little bit. Try out these other people. You can try the one player that was undrafted that we signed from Colorado State. He was one of the highest. Like a lot of people wanted him. He was one of the most favorable undrafted players to get. Try him out a bit because Emmanuel Forbes just isn't really getting the job done. And I know he was drafted first round, and I'm not downplaying that, but give these other guys who maybe were drafted first round, second round a chance to really shine, give them some first reps because Emmanuel Forbes, we tried him out at a lot of different places. We tried him out at returner. Apparently, he was pretty bad at that. He couldn't hold on to the ball sometimes, so you didn't have him there. And he was, I feel like if he got tackled, he'd get like smushed. But we tried him out at many different places. It hasn't worked, and we've given maybe give him a few games this year, see if he can get better at all. But I really do think the it's starting to shine that Emmanuel Forbes' future with the Commanders, or at least the starting spot, is kind of getting darker. It's very much in doubt because he just I don't want to hate on a Commanders player. I don't like doing that at all, but he's just not good. He is just not really doing anything worth noting, anything worth bringing home about. So you really just get scared about it. And we have other players that you can put in, try out. Benjamin St. Juice, he should be number one in my opinion because we lost Fuller. Fuller was our number one. So you lose a number one, you got to bring in one who's almost as good or good enough to be in that spot. And that's Benjamin St. Juice and not Emmanuel Forbes. So going back to look at our roster, Quan Martin, he is at free safety. Quan Martin, honestly, he's a good player. I really like what he does on the field. He plays really well. He has like a good attitude. He plays with that dog in him, you know what I mean? So he can really be a key contributor there. And like I said, if we need to, slide him in maybe that cornerback position a little bit, see how he does. Because we have Derek Forrest and Jeremy Reeves who are suitable to be in the free safety position. Because Jeremy Chin, he's not losing the spot because he's doing really well. So maybe slide one of those two in there. Really, that wouldn't be bad at all. And you can maybe try to see if we can get Forbes out. And I don't hate Forbes. Like I said, I don't like to hate on Commanders players, but he just doesn't get it done. And it's just pretty sad. But Sam Hartman did get injured, so that I really want Sam Hartman to actually get some time. But he, like I said, he got injured. So who do we sign? The legend Trace McSorley. I know he's not gonna get time. Jeff Driscoll, I do think is better than him. Maybe not. I don't know, but like last episode, I said we had a similar room to the Patriots. Now we don't. So this is really, it's honestly sad because Sam Hartman, I do think he's not going to be like a starter, but he can be a okay backup in the league eventually. I mean, give him some time, let him develop because he wasn't like a high prospect going out. He didn't get drafted. We signed him. We signed him as an undrafted free agent. So you hope he can get back. It's his shoulder that is injured, I believe, and take that spot back from Trace McSorley. Love Trace McSorley. Love is the meme around him. He had a great song, but yeah, I really want to see Sam Hartman get back and be healthy for the season. I mean, he's probably would have been practice squad. Maybe he would have beat out Jeff Driscoll, but he probably won't anymore with his shoulder injured. So you want to see him get back. And to the line, we have left tackle, of course. We have some little things there. Brandon Coleman hasn't really been practicing. I don't know if he really suited up yet because he had an questionable injury, which I don't think is like a long term thing, but you really want to get him some work in because he, to me, was more of a project pick. He was one of those players where he's got a high ceiling, but it's a lower floor, which sucks that we had to choose that pick at the position we did, left tackle, because left tackle is a position where we have struggled. I mean, our whole O line has struggled. We saw that in the Jets practice. The O line and secondary struggled, which they did look better against Miami, but then again, Miami, they had some players out, some wide receivers and some good cornerbacks, but we'll go into that. I said Jayden Daniels did very good against the Dolphins. I'll get into the Dolphins' little training camp in a minute, but it sucks that he hasn't been able to go to practices and hasn't been able to play in the Jets game. I don't think he was playing, and if he was, I must have missed it, but I'm pretty sure he did not play. So hopefully he plays against the Dolphins because you really want to see him get some time in, see what he can do, see if he can prove himself and be able to actually capture that starting role, which he has by the coaches, but it's really scary to see a more project pick starting for us because our line was so bad last year. It's, I think, second worst in the league, maybe, other than the Giants. And it just, like, you want to have a better offensive line because you don't want your young star Jayden Daniels get hurt like RG3 did. I really compare this year to like a young RG3 where the O line needs to hold up for our player to stay healthy. But going into it, the we did have a joint practice against the Dolphins. We had a lot of talks about Jayden Daniels specifically in that practice. Kendall Fuller was there, which we will get into, but Jayden Daniels did very good. He had there was one sequence where the Commanders, I think it was red zone offense, Jayden Daniels threw five consecutive touchdowns, and one of them was to Terry McLaurin against Kendall Fuller, which Kendall Fuller later said after he did pick off Jayden Daniels, but he did there was two interceptions on Jayden Daniels. One was Cole Turner bobbling the ball like he usually does, so he got one interception there. And then there was one play where it was Terry McLaurin and Kendall Fuller. They were going against each other the whole time because they're just good quarterback, good wide receiver. And he, I think it was he just made a play on the ball and intercepted it, and he did like a celebration against us, but that was just like an inside joke. But Kendall Fuller said some good things on him. He said he was very impressed by Daniels. I haven't watched the tape yet, but just how he carries himself, he looks like a pro. Fuller said of the rookie, it looks like he trusts in his ability a lot. I mean, shoot, even just looking on YouTube and social media, I heard about him checking a play in the first preseason game and to be able to have the confidence as a rookie to go out there and play football. Because at the end of the day, a lot of the times we rely on X's and O's, and then sometimes we just gotta play football. I'm excited to play against him Saturday, and I'm hoping he has a good future and enjoys it in Washington. So, Kendall Fuller, which a lot of people, I guess, wouldn't know, but if you're Commanders fan, you know he was our best cornerback. He intercepted, I believe, Jimmy Garoppolo in the Super Bowl, like when it was Chiefs versus San Francisco the first time around. So, he's made some really big plays in high games, and he's a Super Bowl champ, and he's been on some good teams, and he's played on good teams. So he kind of knows what makes a really good quarterback, especially because he's played against really good quarterbacks. So him saying that caliber player saying stuff like that about Jayden Daniels really gets you happy and gets you excited because you really just want Jayden Daniels to be good. Jayden Daniels is, like I said, that player that's going to take us out of the Badlands into the Promised Lands. So you really just hope that whatever Kendall Fuller said is true, and Jayden Daniels will be that guy for us. And going into our last thing, Noah Lyles, he knows how to keep himself in the conversation after the big moments, after the Olympics. So, I mean, Tyreek Hill kind of helped him, but Tyreek Hill said that he could beat Noah Lyles in a race, which you saw the race, and I think it was point something off, which I mean is big in like competition, but Tyreek Hill kind of looks like he could do something against Noah Lyles, but then it's asked Noah Lyles, and he said he didn't know who Tyreek Hill was, and I don't think that's true. And then he was also back. He was talking about the NBA again, and apparently he was invited to an Anthony Edwards event by Nike, and he said respectfully he didn't want to go to an event for a guy that hasn't won an NBA championship. He hasn't been like the finals yet, and it's like it's just I don't get why he talks so much trash on people not in his sport. So that kind of just like annoys a little bit, but he finds a way to keep himself in conversations after the Olympics, and I guess you kind of have to respect it. But like it gets kind of annoying after, like, because the first thing, which you kind of can say, what kind of got him on the map was talking trash. So you can say we didn't know you to say this, but he said the NBA champions. He hates how like it's the best and like the world champs, and he's like best of the world, like the best of the United States. He said in like NBA championship, like it's not worth that much. And that really got him on the map. So you could say to Noah Lyles, hey, this is what got you on the map. We didn't know you before you said this. So talk conversations about it can go anywhere. I think it's just a little stupid that he talks trash on sports that don't even pertain to him. So, but thank you guys for watching. I'm your host, Jonathan Burton, and this has been JB Sports. Have a great weekend and look out for some shorts.